my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious
It has begun!
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear.
Trying to misbehave.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Movie Night. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And this is the show where we take a movie, regardless of what genre or anything like that, and we dissect it, we analyze it, we show what we love, what we hate. And of course, joining me today is my fellow cohort in all geeky movies, Alex the Shadow Blazer. Alex, do you see many falling blocks in the shadow dimension that you live in?
No, I can't say that I do.
But they have to go somewhere, don't they?
I guess so, but they don't go to me.
Do they go back to heaven with the Tetris god? For anybody who remembers that old College Humor sketch?
They must. I don't remember the sketch. So.
Yes, where the Tetris god basically just sits there and screams, "Line piece!" So in case you guys cannot tell what we're about to go into, this is an interesting movie that we're reviewing, Alex. Because much like when we reviewed Top Gun Maverick, and how we said, like, why are you making a sequel? This is going to be horrible, etc. And then when we had to review it, we had to eat a bunch of crow because it turned out it was actually a really good movie.
Right.
Well,
although I want to bounce back on that a bit.
Okay.
Because when we first heard oh, they're making a Tetris movie, we kind of thought it was like going to be a very literal interpretation of Tetris.
Let me correct you for a second, because the article that we had read was that the rights to a Tetris movie had been acquired, and there was no concept of story. There was nothing like that. And that was basically what we were talking about. It's like, what do you do with this game? It's falling, or what do you do? It's falling blocks the movie. What the hell?
Exactly. They didn't say what this movie was going to be. They just said Tetris. So we kind of thought it was going to, they're literally trying to make Tetris into a movie.
Yes.
And it's
this led into a solid hour-long gag where the four of us, because I think Aldo was with us for that one. This was when he was starting to have to miss a little bit more. But we constantly reference, like, what's the best that you could do? Futurama already did it. And then at that point, I think we even said, like, maybe it could be Pixels 2. And it's like, no, don't do that. But yeah.
Pixels even out by that point?
Yes, Pixels had just barely happened at that point. It was, like, just barely out of the theaters because, spoiler alert, Pixels wasn't in theaters that long. And so at that point, like, it was getting ready for its abysmal DVD release. And then at that point, yeah, the rights to a Tetris movie had been acquired. And no information had been given. I don't even think they had a director at that point or a lead writer. And so it's like, they don't have an idea. They're just wanting to get these rights because everybody's doing a video game movie.
Yeah. I mean, let's take a modern example, because this is long before that, but what's going on with Minecraft right now and how they're trying to literally just do Minecraft and it looks abysmal and terrible.
And we haven't even addressed that in the podcast. We will at some point have to, because, like, I know that there was news on it either August or September, one of the two, where because there was stuff about the movie itself, but then there was also Jack Black getting mad at people because they didn't like his song or whatever that's in the Minecraft movie. So, like, because I guess he was expecting that it was going to explode like Peaches did when he did Mario, and it didn't. And there could be a number of reasons for that, but yeah, like, that's another one that we might need to get into, because it's like, okay, yeah, they're doing a Minecraft movie, but you want to know what we could say about the Minecraft movie as opposed to the Tetris movie? Minecraft has a premise. Minecraft has a premise. You're in a world of blocks. Like, you have somebody to work with. Tetris was falling blocks.
Yeah, it's just a puzzle game. So,
right.
Yeah, we just, again, we kind of thought they're literally going to try to make this into some kind of movie when there's no movie to make here. When there's probably more story-rich games. But now, go ahead.
Yeah, well, but here's the other thing that I also should probably mention. While we were shitting on Tetris, a former listener of ours did point out, and he was actually one of the people that recommended that we watch this movie. He did point out that Romney might have had an idea that kind of became what happened, which was like, he was basically saying, I had to go back into the ether to be able to go check this out. And thankfully we had audio of it still, but he basically was saying, like, maybe it's going to be some kind of like a biopic on somebody getting the Tetris world record or something like that. And okay, that's technically not what happened, but biopic? Yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe I'll give you some credit here, because believe it or not, so in case you guys can't tell, the movie that we're reviewing is Tetris. And it technically is supposed to be, although it's not an accurate one, a biopic of how Tetris as a franchise came to be.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's like, when we saw the trailers for this, Alex, after, having that shitting on session, we went, holy shit, this is actually looking like a pretty good movie.
Yeah, seriously.
And the only thing I think we were laughing about was that there are tinges of action movie vibes in what looks to be a biopic of getting Tetris as a franchise started. Because for those who don't know, Tetris started in old Soviet Russia, USSR. And there was no way a franchise like Tetris was going to start in the middle of 80s Russia. It was not going to happen. And so that's the whole premise of this, is basically getting Tetris out into the world. And so at that point, that when we saw the trailer of that, you and I both looked at it and went, yeah, we actually kind of want to see this now. This is actually pretty damn good. Especially because I remember us talking about this. We'd always kind of mentioned that, like, we would love to be able to see biopics based on, like, video game history. But then you and I would kind of bounce off of each other and go, well, how do you do that without making it look overly businessy, complicated, and boring?
Yeah.
And holy shit, this movie kind of figured out how.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was this or Console Wars. I remember reading the book Console Wars.
Yes.
When that came out, and I thought, yeah, because that one's been a movie in development, movie status for like ever since the book came out.
Well, supposedly that might be getting remade, because now that Tetris has gone off, there is talk that people are trying to acquire the rights to do a Console Wars movie again.
Yeah. Well, maybe they will, because I've been certainly waiting for it since they announced it.
The other one that I've heard, and this one I'm not sure if you could do without it just being a legal drama left and right, but basically covering the Kirby case against Donkey Kong. And that one, I'm not sure if enough crap happened there to make it as compelling, but like it is a prominent video game case. I'm not gonna discourage that. It's just whether or not you could pull that off and make it interesting from start to finish. That's the complicated thing, because the Kirby or the Donkey Kong case is kind of a slow one in terms of like how things happen. It happened over the course of years. So I don't know how you could do that without having to do a lot of time skips and having to over dramatize a lot of the players involved. So, right. But I have heard that one also has been considered. That, and believe it or not, somebody wants to do a biopic or a documentary on Jack Thompson. No, just no. we all want to forget Jack Thompson's still freaking alive, I believe. We want to forget that he lives, okay? Let him fade into obscurity.
He's like the lawyer who kept bringing like frivolous lawsuits against violent video games. Is that the one?
Yeah, he's the one that constantly tried to sue Call of Duty and GTA. Yeah.
Right.
Because those were the two targets all the time.
Yeah, he's still alive.
I thought so. I think he's like peacefully retired or something like that, but he occasionally comes out and just for old time's sake shoves his foot down his throat. So at that point, we're veering off track a little bit here, but
I guess so. Yeah.
I had to give a little bit of history here because while I do think Alex makes a good point, you know, we probably will have to eat crow in this podcast, but a lot of the reasoning for it isn't necessarily the same as Top Gun. Top Gun, we knew what they could do with it because it was a sequel. But Tetris, we had no idea.
Yeah.
And that's what we were making fun of. It's just like the premise here is absolutely asinine. What can you do with it? Turns out they figured out a way. But first of all, before we actually get into this, Alex, just really quick, walking into this film, what did you think you were gonna? What did you think the film was gonna be like? Like, were you hesitant or anything like that? And then what happened after you watched it?
Well, I mean, I had no idea what the film was going to be like. Yeah, we did watch the trailer, but by the time we got around to watching this movie, I kind of forgot what the premise of the movie was actually going to be.
Right.
I think I did quickly look it up just before we watched it, and I'm like, okay, so it is going to be like a docudrama about how they got Tetris out of the Soviet Union, the original Soviet creator, and all that. So and I do remember many, many, many years ago on YouTube seeing a sort of a small documentary, I guess you could say, about Tetris's history, but I've long since forgotten it because this was a long time ago. So I certainly didn't know a lot about the history of Tetris. I knew it originated in the Soviet Union, and that was about it.
Yeah,
I didn't know much more about it. So I thought, okay, this movie could be good, and this could actually shed a little light, little history for my sake about the history of this game and how it got into the wider world and how it became a big, beloved puzzle game.
Yep. So before I get into my thoughts here, I do think it is worthwhile here to read a quick synopsis provided by IMDb, just to kind of give people a feel of what this film was technically about, because we're talking about the historical aspects and all that, but this ought to give a little bit more insight into, if you haven't watched this film, what it tried to do. An enterprising game developer risks everything in a race to outmaneuver duplicitous insiders to negotiate a deal with Soviet Union bureaucrats for the international licensing rights to what would eventually become one of the most recognizable and widely played games in history. And that's primarily what a lot of this is about. Now, here's the thing. Walking into this after the trailer, I was still excited, but I still did have hesitation for it, primarily because they were trying to go into I like how you put it, docudrama kind of foray into this. And to me, you know, the facts and the biopic elements here are intriguing and interesting, and I've always wanted to know them. And I actually have also watched a documentary on Tetris. I don't know if it's the same one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but
Probably not.
I'll get into that in a second. And so I was walking in going, okay, I'm going to get all my cool little video game tidbits and details, and that's great. The only thing I was worried about was the action movie-esque elements that they were trying to do in order to bring a wider audience to it. I ultimately thought that was going to kill the movie because it was going to kill its accuracy. I was wrong. I have no problem saying after walking out of that, or we say walking out, but we were basically in the same room. Walking out of the film, I literally just walked out and went, I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with how they did it because they made sure that it stayed on task with what it was doing, and they knew when to add those action movie-esque elements when the movie was kind of slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so at that point, where I was worried that some of the finer details were going to get lost, they actually didn't. And instead, they actually tried to, in a weird way, focus things around the main character of the film. I mean, technically, the film centers around two characters, the actual creator of Tetris, as well as the designer Hank Rogers, who helped get him out. But the main character of it, I don't think we'd argue this, is Hank Rogers. They do a lot of things from Rogers' perspective, and even the creator of Tetris is a side character within it, but he's a necessary one.
Yes.
So at that point, I think that all of the action movie-esque elements were basically to further Hank Rogers and get people invested into him as a character, because they also tried to have a lot of those action movie elements centered around things like his family life, or trying to get the creator of Tetris out of Russia, etc. So it all still kind of clung together. So I actually ultimately have to eat crow on that, because I was worried. They actually pulled it off, and they made it worthwhile into a film that, yes, I think we'll say this left and right, Alex. Is this film probably 100% accurate? Probably not.
No.
There's a lot of dramatic flair to it, but it still is compelling enough that they took something that you and me as geeks would find interesting and made it interesting for the masses.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
We'll file this into the cool runnings of these biopic movies. Entertaining, but not really accurate.
Are you making a poke at me for all the times we watched Cool Runnings out there?
Maybe so. I mean, I love that movie. I love that movie, but we did watch it a lot while we were on vacation.
The two movies that we watched, I mean, here's the thing though. We also do watch a lot of The Sandlot, but
yeah, we watched that one too a lot.
But The Sandlot is more because your parents really love it. So at that point,
I love it too, but I don't need to watch it 3 times in a row.
Right. And for me, Cool Runnings is just that. So at that point, like I just put it on when we need to have something on for the sake of having background noise or whatever, and I just put on Cool
okay.
Runnings. So that being said, let's get into the positives of this film. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and let you start, because I've already kind of talked a little about Hank Rogers and all that. And what would you consider to be a positive of the Tetris movie?
It's on Hank Rogers, because I really didn't know any of the players in the whole story of Tetris as it's from its development to its coming to the West. So to kind of, I think, frame the whole story from the man who really saw the potential in the game to really be a big seller, to go out there, put his reputation on the line, put his money out there, really want to bring this. I thought he was a really compelling character.
And I like the fact that a lot of the conflict per se was centered around his family, which the other fun thing here is that Bulletproof Software was technically owned by Hank, but also was co-owned by his wife. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but
Akemi.
What was it?
Akemi. I think it was Akemi.
So, like, she was, I can't remember her official title. I think she was the lead artist for Bulletproof, but he was technically the CEO of the company. And so at that point, it's centered around the fact that they were trying to keep their company running, but also around their family, where Hank was he was trying to get this idea off the ground, but he also wanted to be a family man. He wanted to be a part of his daughter's life, a part of his son's life, and everything kind of centers around that, especially a lot of the conflicts that he has to deal with. One of the things I actually do like about the film, in particular with Hank, is that because of a lot of the conflicts they are dealing with, he misses, I can't remember what it is. It's like a recital or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like a very, very important recital for his daughter. And at the lowest point of the film is when he finally realizes he misses that recital. And so at that point, then it becomes just like, we want to see a redemption story, and we want to see him make it up to his daughter. And thankfully, in the end, he does, by making their entire apartment into the recital room.
Yeah, that was very sweet.
I thought that was cute. I thought that was great. I'll just second you. A lot of the stuff based around Hank Rogers was really well done. Especially considering the other thing that they tried to do was like basically start to build his friendship with the creator of Tetris, Alexei Pajitnov, is his name. And I had to go look it up because it's a Russian name. And so they build up his friendship with Hank, as well as, Hank's a family man. And because he understands that with his family, he also understands it with Alexei's. And ultimately, the secondary goal here is to get Alexei out of Russia so that he can thrive off of his product.
Definitely.
Which is actually funny because now the CEO of the Tetris company is, I believe, Hank Rogers' daughter. So I think it's the same daughter that is featured in this movie. And she runs the Tetris company now.
That's pretty cool. I think that's great.
Yeah, so that's my seconding. Other positives. Yeah,
I loved the opening of the movie where he's at the trade show in Vegas, and he's trying to sell Go, a video game version of Go. And of course, he's drawn over to Tetris, and he's like, then he gets that eureka moment. It's like, this is the big thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because I mentioned Console Wars earlier, and I remember there's a similar sentiment in the book. I think it was Tom Kalinske, not Kalinske. Maybe it was Kalinske. It was whoever was. Yeah, I think it was Kalinske because it was whoever was head of Sega of America at the time, and he kind of had the same, though not quite as good, eureka moment about Sega's future with like the things like the Saturn or the CD. But I like that. I thought it's that kind of perfect, like, that's your perfect inciting incident right there. And it's just a great way to start the movie.
So another positive that I'm actually going to point out here, this is going to seem very enveloping, but I'm going to narrow it down to 3 particular people. The side cast is amazing in this movie, especially some of the castings for it, specifically like Toby Jones, who got brought in to play Robert Stein, who is technically the owner of the arcade rights to Tetris, but he just kind of got them in like a yard sale or something like that. And for those who don't know, that's the same guy who plays, oh crap, I can't remember his name in the MCU. Shit. He's the doofy researcher that defects ultimately and then becomes kind of the overall Hydra villain in the second Captain America movie. And so you have him once again playing a German nerd, and it's totally fine. I love his interactions, not only just with him alone on the screen, but also with the 2 British businessmen that they deal with, which I believe are Kevin and Robert Maxwell. Yes. And holy shit, for Robert Maxwell, they had to make up the frick out of the guy to make him look accurate to Robert Maxwell. But basically, the Maxwells like run a publishing firm that they have bought all of the rights from Robert Stein, and they're trying to acquire all of the handheld rights and all of the rights to Tetris so that Hank Rogers can't get them, kind of thing. And every time these guys are on screen, you get entirely how cutthroat this business is, or at least it was at the time. And especially when it comes to any time where money gets brought up to Robert Maxwell at all, because a lot of people don't know this at this point, like historically, their publishing house is in the toilet, and he is trying very hard for people not to notice that it's in the toilet. And so he's constantly like screaming at people, even his own son going, "We're totally fine. Go and acquire the rights to Tetris."
Oh, yeah.
He knows that the rights to Tetris are the things is the thing that will save him. It will save his publishing house. So at that point, it was great to be able to see just how cutthroat a lot of these. In fact, one of my favorite moments is with Toby Jones and Anthony Boyle fighting in the office because Robert Stein gets screwed because of Robert's son going and trying to acquire the rights behind Stein's back. So they're having a knockdown, drag out fist fight while Robert is going over the contract, because this is when the Russians redefine what a computer is. And so while they're fighting and throwing fists and everything like that, he's just like taking his tiny little glasses and going through the legal contract of what a computer is defined as. Because for those who don't realize, like, this shit happens in business. It absolutely does. It's not supposed to, but it does, because tensions get really high in these situations. I believe it. So I really love that. Another positive that you have.
I definitely agree. The whole cast was really brilliant. Mm-hmm. Very well acted film.
I will say one of my favorite scenes, and this is the dumbest thing ever, but I'm a gamer that grew up in the 90s. And this was a fucking cool moment to see this. I don't care that it was dramatized or anything like that, but it's pretty much what I always imagined as a gamer, the reveal of the Game Boy. And being able to go into that isolated room. I can't remember what they called it. The secretary used a specific term. It was like the Heavenly Palace or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this is when he actually meets Minoru Arakawa, along with the chief legal counsel for Nintendo, or for Nintendo of America at the time. Because people didn't know this, they didn't make the Game Boy in the US, but a lot of the testing for it was conducted in both Japan and the US, because they were rushing the fuck out of that to get it out. Because they knew they had lightning in a bottle, and they wanted to make sure that they had every advantage and that they had covered every base. And so to see that sanitized room with a Game Boy, with old school connector, not even a cartridge yet, boys and girls, old school pin connectors connected to a computer. And that's how they were loading up Mario Land for Hank Rogers to see. That was the fucking coolest moment in this entire fucking movie.
I liked that. That was pretty awesome looking.
Because, like, that's everything that a gamer would imagine at that kind of moment. And
we would all love to, exactly, we'd all love to just be able to go in to one of these R&D facilities and just see the bare bones basic prototype just sitting there ready to test it out, regardless of where it is in development. It's just so fascinating.
I've gotten into arguments about this scene, and I want to bring this up really quick. People actually that I've talked to are mad that Arakawa shows up, because they were wondering why Yokoi wasn't there, since he worked on the Game Boy, right? Mm-hmm. If the timeline is accurate, Yokoi would have sadly passed away before this. So he
was still alive then, because didn't he develop the Virtual Boy?
No, he came up with the concept for the Virtual Boy.
Let's see. I'm curious. I thought Yokoi.
I think the accident would have happened by this point, but also Yokoi was deeply.
He was still alive.
He was still alive. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, he died in 97.
So at that point, still alive. But also, here's the other thing to keep in mind: he was deeply entrenched in Nintendo of Japan. Deeply entrenched to the point where he wouldn't have traveled. So, I'm guaranteeing you, he would probably not have needed to be there to do what Arakawa does in this. I think it's still fairly accurate. I don't think Yokoi would have needed to be there, nor would he probably have wanted to be there, because Yokoi, much like Miyamoto, he kind of bounced. He got a project, he bounced off of it into the next project. So at that point, like, break time, not really a thing for Yokoi. So at that point, I can totally buy that he was not there. Because I just don't think it would have been, because Arakawa lived in the States. It makes sense for him to be there. He was the president of Nintendo of America. And yes, Arakawa is factually accurate. Arakawa was there. I don't know how long Arakawa lasted in Nintendo. I think he went back to Japan at some point, but yeah, he's technically accurate. But I love that scene.
Remind me, did we see Yamauchi in this movie?
We do, and actually I was about to bring that up. So the presentation of Tetris to Yamauchi-san, that was another good moment, but I actually got it wrong. I thought it was, oh shit, what's his name? He actually made a Nintendo game at one point, and he's a well-known Japanese actor. I thought he played Yamauchi in this, and no, it's actually Togo Igawa that plays him. Well done performance, because that's pretty much how the Yamauchis would have interacted with this gaijin who snuck in to try and sell Tetris to them. That's exactly how he would have interacted, and I think that they got it right off the bat. Takeshi Kitano, that's who I thought played him. Takeshi Kitano I thought he played Yamauchi. No, it was Togo Igawa. And oh yeah, that was another good scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, really.
Like, he just has a Famicom on his desk, and he starts playing Tetris. And immediately, like, of course, he doesn't speak a lick of English, because the Yamauchi family at that point was very strictly Japanese traditional. So yes, they wouldn't have spoken English, especially not to some filthy gaijin.
Long history, long Kyoto-based dynasty. I would expect pretty old-fashioned.
Japan is an isolationist kind of country. They've always kind of been that. They've opened up more in recent years, but that's taken a lot of time to build up to. And the Yamauchis are one of those, like, old school families. So at that point, it took a while for that to happen.
Yeah.
But that's exactly how he would have interacted. And of course, he got his complimentary copy of Tetris. And I also love the fact that Hank Rogers was kind of shitting his pants when he met Yamauchi, because that's what you would be doing. That'd be basically the equivalent of, like, if you or I was able to either meet Miyamoto or Satoru Iwata in our lives, we'd be shitting our pantses too.
For sure.
So I loved a lot of the Nintendo moments, and specifically the kind of the game development-esque moments too, because I love the isolation room with the Game Boy and being able to program Tetris in. And then I also love the Yamauchi moment, where, you got to see how he basically would have interacted with somebody like Hank Rogers. So any other positives that you want to point out here?
Just again, kind of echoing what we were talking about. Yamauchi, like, having the Famicom on his desk to play it, that
with
sounds
a miniature
like him,
TV, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard I don't know if he played them himself, but I heard that's just kind of the kind of person Yamauchi was. He would just, like, despite his, like, fact that he never really played video games himself or had no background in engineering or programming, he just could look at the games and be like, yeah, this is good, or no, that's no good.
Well, because Nintendo was always very involved with it. This is why we make fun of this now, but this is why the Nintendo seal of approval existed, is because, like, if it wasn't Hiroshi Yamauchi, it was somebody else in the Yamauchi clan, because there was like 2 or 3 that worked during the video game era. They were testing these. And in Hiroshi Yamauchi's extent, he was probably just kind of sitting there pressing buttons. Like, oh, press the button, it works, okay, we're fine. But the fact that, he actually did do that, I actually saw some people making statements about this, like, he would have been a boomer. He would not have played the video game himself. Yeah, he would have. It was his fucking product. Like, this is when the Yamauchis, like, legitimately cared about everything that was coming out of their out of their particular company. And if it wasn't him, it would have been one of the other two Yamauchis that was going to test it. That's why things like the Nintendo seal of approval existed. So yeah, I love that, but I can guarantee you, especially the way that Togo Egawa played it, he's basically like, okay, press the button, it works. Press the button, it works.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It works. Make sure I get a complimentary copy. That's the best part about it. This old fucking boomer wanted a complimentary copy. Because I get a lot of youngins' argument there. He's like, why would he care? It was his product. He just wanted to put it up on a shelf somewhere. So, I'll also point out another major moment, because we actually had to stop this film when we were watching this because it nerded me out so hard. But it was basically covering, very briefly, the introduction of a little Chinese company called Tenjin. For those who don't know, Tenjin, because this movie goes over it briefly, the Nintendo cartridge was not hacked, but reverse engineered. And so then we started getting pirated Nintendo cartridges. This is a big thing to me because I actually like the Tenjin cartridges. And I actually remember going to a lot of Video Sharks and Blockbuster videos in the day, and it was technically cheaper to get Tenjin versions of games. And so a lot of the games that I rented were Tenjin cartridges. So I love the fact they mentioned the existence of Tenjin in this. And I had to stop the movie, right, Alex?
Yeah.
I had to explain this to you because Tenjin was just such a big deal, especially to Nintendo history. Oh, Nintendo to this day still hates Tenjin because of what they did. I can imagine, yeah. They technically also hate Wisdom Tree, by the way. You know, all of those wonderful Bible games that the AVGN has played? Yeah, they hate that company too.
I can imagine, yeah.
Because of those little blue cartridges in the case of the Bible games and those little black cartridges, basically taking what they have made, like their own what's the word I'm looking for? Proprietary technology and making it available to everybody. So much so that even there are actually even some Action 52 copies that are based on Tenjin cartridges. So there you go.
Okay, I can imagine.
It's amazing. Well, because once they cracked the code, like, everybody knew at that point. And this, if you want to know why Nintendo stuck to cartridges for so long, this is why. They never wanted it. They didn't want Tenjin to happen again. And they were really worried about that with CDs and eventually with DVDs. So this is why you had to deal with all the cartridges and then the mini discs. And now with the Switch using SD cards, this is why they do it. Because it really bothered them. But I love it because it's just that little piece of history for me. And I thought it was a great thing to add. Any other positives you want to throw in?
Nice eclectic selection of 80s music. I think it really fits just for the period, for sure.
Yes, and also the fact that it would transit. The other thing I'll actually point out is the transitions that they did in this film, where they would transition via like an 8-bit kind of aesthetic. I don't know if you noticed this. They also did it with the music, where it would transition as well. So it would be like full on score, but then it would have moments where they tried to make it look like the movie would glitch out. And in those glitch out moments, the music would switch to an 8-bit inspired medley of it. And then eventually go back to the regular music. Did you notice that?
I don't think I noticed that, but that's cool.
Yep, I love that shit just because ever since Tron Legacy did it and introduced like 8-bit movies, whenever I hear a movie using an 8 or a 16-bit medley, I'm immediately nerding out in my head because I love it. Like, I grew up on 8-bit and 16-bit music. I love it when you demake the music for it. It works. So I think we've gone over a lot of the positives here. Are there any negatives that we need to go over with this film?
Well, I didn't hate the whole spy, like, thriller aspects of it.
Yes.
I think we could have done without the car chase at the end. That just kind of felt...
God.
It just... All of a sudden, I'm just like...
Weren't there 2 car chases? Because we had the big one at the end, but wasn't there another one before that?
I might have been. I remember the car chase, and then I remember the airport. And I'm like,
sworn there was like a car chase, or maybe like a really tense moment where Hank was trying to get back to the hotel after the first day, and he had the spy translator with him. And I could have sworn that was also kind of like a chase scene too, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
It could have been. It could have also just been on foot or something. I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
But...
I'm gonna add on to what you were saying. A lot of the Russian intrigue moments, even though they are historical, and I get why they are there, they did detract from what the movie was trying to do.
Yeah. Just the climax. I'm just like, I was watching it. I'm like, it's entertaining, sure, but I'm like, am I watching Argo again? I felt like I was watching Argo.
Right, and also the fact that they tried to add in a lot of like false tenseness into those business negotiation meetings. It was just like, yeah, you guys, you're. I think I made this joke to you when we were watching. I was like, you're trying to make this a Bourne movie, and it's not a Bourne movie. It's not working.
Yeah, sir.
So at that, a lot of that stuff, and while it is historically necessary, and I ultimately would say it is a necessary evil of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my second and third watchings of this movie, I have skipped them because they are just dumb. Or by the time I get to that final car chase, I just kind of skip to the end because the end is heartwarming.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Just a little silly to get a little too much like Argo, because Argo did the same bullshit where it made up this like last minute car chase and they're chasing him down the runway, and it's like, that's in Argo I'm talking about, was the chasing down the runway. It doesn't happen in this movie, but it was very similar to Argo. Argo's a fine movie too, but like this, it felt the need to add a little spice at the very end just to make it a little more thrilling.
It's not a bad element per se. It's just not a necessary one in the long term. Like I said, it's one of those necessary evils. You need that to be able to explain the tension that's going on in Russia, but at the same time, like, you're more invested in what's going on with Hank more than the political unrest that was going on in Russia at the time. Because, you know, for those who don't know this, who didn't go through it, this is when the USSR was collapsing. And eventually they would dissolve, and I've actually still met youngins to this day who believe that, you know, like way back in the 80s, Putin was still in charge. And no, that's not the case. You know, there was fluctuating leaders, and originally they were the USSR. Hence why, for those who don't know, why Zangief still in Street Fighter to this day says he's from the USSR. It's because of that. Because he's supposed to be one of those diehards is like, the USSR still exists in my heart, comrade.
The movie's like, what, set in 88, 89?
Yes.
So
something like
we're
that,
still talking, so even then, we're still talking to like a good 2 or 3 years before the formal collapse.
Like this is when the unrest began.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the end, sure, but the Soviet Union didn't really cease until 91.
But so Gorbachev would not have shook hands with Ronald Reagan before now. Yeah, because I think that happened in 90. Where he shook hands with both Ronalds, Reagan and McDonald.
I'm not. That I'll have to look into. I feel like the Gorbachev and Reagan would have met sooner, but that's something I'll have to look up into.
It also could be that I'm thinking of Ronald McDonald. So,
or George H.W. Bush. I'm sure he meant George Bush Sr. So,
but yeah, like Gorbachev hadn't lost power yet, and ultimately the USSR hadn't fallen apart, but they did try very hard to showcase the unrest that was going on in Russia. And one of the ways that I actually think that, and it's one of my negatives, is the rave, where they tried to showcase that, yes, you know, like, even though everything is so restrictive in Russia, like, all of the 20-somethings are getting together in random warehouses to listen to American music. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I just don't think it was happening the way that the movie dramatized it, because they made it almost look like every other stinking rave party in every other freaking movie right now.
Yeah, kind of.
And I'm sorry, but, like, no, I have problems with that. So yeah, it detracts from it because it doesn't seem legit. I personally think this is a negative, but I'm going to bring it up. What do you think that the KGB guy was a negative?
Yeah, kind of, because the whole
He just
movie
seems unnecessary.
And same with, like, the honey trap woman. It's just I don't know why the movie kind of went with
school. Yeah.
I don't know why the movie kind of went with this whole angle that, like, that it was kind of inferring that, like, the whole reason to keep it within the Soviet Union is to, like, it's gonna, if we let this out, then it's the beginning of the end, and it's like, it's what's gonna unravel our union. We're letting too much of our culture, of our trade, of our information, of our achievements go out.
Her reasoning
to the
was
world.
BS. I can at least buy the KGB operatives, where he was basically just trying to make a nice little nest egg for himself. Kind of thing. That made more sense to me. But yeah, then you had her who just, I had this feeling so many times whenever these people would come up on the screen, but just like old school Command and Conquer, Red Alert, Russia, FMV cutscenes. That's how she came off to me.
Yeah,
is that she was supposed to be Natasha Boronov, who was trying to help Stalin, because in Command and Conquer, Einstein didn't kill Hitler. He banished Hitler from the timeline, so to speak. And so the whole premise of the Red Alert series is that Stalin becomes the big bad, and he actually tries to, like, take over the world. Kind of that. But they would do those FMV-esque cutscenes, and that's every time she was on screen, I was thinking about all of those and how bad they were.
Yeah.
Because that's how ultimately this would end up.
Yeah, just kind of silly.
It really was. I mean, I would also consider him a negative too, because there were points where he went real KGB, and it just didn't seem necessary for the film. Like, we didn't need him threatening Alexei's kids. We were already getting the point that, you know, his family was threatened. We didn't need to see him actually threaten the kids on screen. That feels like something that should be in a fucking Bourne movie, not in the Tetris movie.
Yeah, seriously.
And look, guys, we can have that debate day in, day out on whether or not those should have been part of this film. And ultimately, would I remove them? No, because they are technically, historically valid for what's going on at this time. I just think that they took away from the film and what the intended purpose was. It's basically the equivalent of, like, for all the people who love the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, there are detractors of them because they took out key elements like Tom Bombadil. And I do think Peter Jackson had a good argument there that, given the premise of who he decided to focus on, Tom didn't make sense to put in the movie. And yes, it's disappointing, but it ultimately did make sense in terms of that film. And that's the same thing here, is like, it's one of those things that you just have to kind of acknowledge. It has to be in the film in order for things to make sense. I just kind of wish that they had spent more time focusing on Alexei's boss rather than the KGB operatives. Because it just felt silly that the KGB was involved with some, like, lower end grunt. When I'm not denying this, guys. Yes, they kind of were involved, but they were not involved to this extent. historically with this. I mean,
yeah,
Alexei did fear for his life, but not this hard. So yeah, any other negatives that we want to go into?
Yeah, when Hank is like describing like every great game character you have has their companion. Mario's got Luigi.
Mhm.
Mike Tyson's got whoever he's punching out. They show Zelda, but they don't even show a period accurate Zelda game. They don't show like Zelda 1 or Zelda 2 in this case. They show like Four Swords Adventure,
Did
which
they?
is like, yeah, like or at least something kind of similar to that.
Yes.
That
Well,
it looked more like Four Swords Adventure, and whether it's actual footage or something that they just animated in the film, I'm not
see,
sure.
I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't say Zelda has Zelda, because Link as a name for that character wasn't determined until Zelda 2.
was yeah, but Zelda 2 would have already been out by this point. Plus, even the
Would it
original
have?
manual, I think so.
Let me double check.
Zelda
the
2's,
dates.
I feel like Zelda 2 is still pretty mid 80s. And let's see, Zelda 2,
1987. So yeah, it would have been out.
87.
Okay.
So
Okay,
yeah,
then never mind.
right
The
there.
retracted.
Plus, even then, I'm pretty sure the original manual, not like I've ever read the original Zelda
No, you know what? I'm
manual,
going to correct it. Samus would have been a robot at that point.
yeah.
I'm just going to
But,
interject
like,
that one.
okay, but the original manual for Legend of Zelda, surely that would have named him Link, even if you could still name your character in the game.
I actually wonder. I do know that Nintendo fought a lot of things with this film. I wonder if maybe that's why they couldn't show the original Zelda footage and they had to go with a more modern one. Maybe
But
that's why,
I
because
don't
Nintendo
think,
would have fought them on it. But
I
didn't they
can't
show
imagine because
they showed Mario Land, and I think they showed the original Mario, didn't they?
yeah, they still
Yeah,
showed
if they
period
allowed the
accurate
original
Mario,
they would have allowed the original Zelda too.
and they showed Punch Out. So surely that we could have actually had a proper Zelda period game, whether the original Zelda or Zelda 2,
Yeah.
instead of
Okay. Yeah.
like Four
Point
Swords
given.
Adventure, which was made like 10 years later.
Yeah, but point taken. If they use Four Swords, that's weird, because you would want to keep things accurate to the to the
period.
environment kind of thing. But
So yeah, I remember that bothering me when I saw that. I'm like that's like it's not even Zelda 2. And there wasn't even Zelda in the image when they cut to it.
Yeah,
So,
good point. Good point. Yeah, that's pretty much like all the negatives that I ultimately have. Do you have any others?
I think about it for me.
Actually, no, I'm going to add a negative, and that was all the times that my daughters interrupted us while we were watching this really good movie. Because a lot of people don't realize, like, unfortunately, poor Alex, he has to deal with the fact that I'm a parent now. And we got interrupted, 6 times when watching this film?
Yeah, quite a few times, I guess.
So we had to pause during a lot of really good moments. And so there you go. That's another negative that I'll throw in there is parent aggro. It just sucked.
Wow.
So at that point, we've given the bests, we've given the worsts.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 5, what would we give the Tetris movie?
I'll give this 4 stars out of 5.
Mm-hmm. I'm personally at 4.5 because, again, like, all of the Bourne-ish stuff, it does take away from the film, but overall it just comes together and it makes it all worthwhile in the end. And I just skip all the shit that I don't like that I think is silly at this point. So I can't necessarily make it cause harm. I'm going to go with 4.5. I thought this was actually really well done. And where, you have actually been on or been a proponent of them trying to do like a console wars movie and stuff like that, whereas I haven't. This has actually kind of opened my mind to the idea. And I would like to be able to, if they did it more in this kind of vein, I would love to see more films going into like big franchises and their establishment. If you wanted to tell me about like the story of the young upstart Shigeru Miyamoto, I would totally be on board with it, because like you can make it that way. And it would, although with Miyamoto, it'd probably have to be a little bit more slice of life than Bourne movie.
Yeah. That would make a fantastic biographical film.
It actually really would. Except I would want Miyamoto to show up in it. as like one of the R&D guys when like when Miyamoto has his first day, he has to be like one of the old R&D guys.
Yeah.
And just kind of looks him over. New blood. I'm going to create a lot of problems with you. And it'd be so great to just have that moment, which it probably won't happen because Miyamoto is just such a shut-in now. But that would be great. But yeah, this has basically opened my mind to like, if you wanted to do something on the establishment of a young Blizzard Entertainment, I would love that. As opposed to before this film where I'm just like, there's no way you could do this without making it just a snooze fest for everybody else involved.
Right.
Gamers would love it. Everybody else would hate it. I will also tell you one other thing that this movie made me really miss. We're gonna go old school internet, boys and girls. So if you youngins don't know what we're referring to, that's not your fault. That's not my concern. But this just really made me miss. I don't know if you're just so old, Alex. You might not remember this old website called Machinima.
I remember Machinima. Yeah.
This made me miss that because of all of the documentaries that they did way back when. Because I remember the documentary that I watched on the history of Tetris was done by Machinima. Way back during the game trailers days, not the YouTube channel, the website, and how they got showcased there, because like some of that stuff would get highlighted there as kind of a cooperative effort between the two websites. And I miss that shit now because I would love to go back to that documentary, and it's been scrubbed from the internet, so I can't do it. But I would love to go back to that documentary and just compare the notes. Kind of deal. And unfortunately, because of the way things ended up, all of Machinima has been basically lost. And anytime anybody tries to put up a pirated video, they are immediately taken down. So it's just like, oh, well, thanks. That sucks because they actually, compared to like, do you remember when game trailers actually did retrospectives?
Yeah, I do.
Well, Machinima did too, except the difference was Machinima, for doing it slightly longer than game trailers, had a lot more of gaming's history covered. And so at that point, like they had covered a lot of retrospectives of various franchises, various companies, things like that. Whereas game trailers, I'm not knocking game trailers. I love those retrospectives too. But when you look at the sheer number of what game trailers did compared to what Machinima did, worlds apart. They covered a lot of the gaming industry. And so unfortunately, a lot of that is lost to time. And that's the saddest thing in the world. But that ultimately made me want to watch all that stuff again. But yeah, overall, love this movie a lot more than I thought we would. And I just find it funny because we literally watched this film, Alex, the same year as the 40th anniversary of Tetris.
Good timing.
Tetris is 40 now.
Wow.
Does that blow your mind?
It does blow my mind.
I mean, so we have this movie that happened technically last year, but then we also have, like I just barely showed you this, the trailer for Tetris Forever, which is basically the 40th anniversary collection of Tetris. So, for all the people that want to sit there and say like Tetris is not a big important feature of gaming, it's not one of those established franchises like Warcraft or Mario or Zelda. No, it absolutely is.
It is, yeah.
It absolutely is, and it's earned its place. So much so that I think Tetris is in the Hall of Fame for the Smithsonian. Yeah, it's in the Hall of Fame, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
If it isn't, it's getting in this year. Because 40 years. But and I mean, first of all, it was like the first one to do what I like to call the 99 craze. Because we had Tetris 99. And then eventually we got Mario 35, which was basically the same premise. And now we also have F-Zero 99. So yeah, Tetris is very much an established franchise. And the way that they did this film honors its legacy. Honors the legacy that it should have. And it almost makes me just really sad that this is stuck on Apple TV as a place to be. It really needs to be in more it needs to be in the eyes of more people. So that people can appreciate this film for what it tried to do. And it just makes me hope that, somebody in Hollywood was paying attention so that we could get more of these kinds of films about some of the history of the gaming industry that I love, that I think other people would love also.
Okay, so I checked, and yes, Tetris is in the Hall of Fame. It's one of the original inductees, along with Doom, Pac-Man, Pong, Super Mario Brothers, and World of Warcraft. So those are
that's right. Those were the Warcraft is in there.
Yeah,
and that's we're celebrating. Is it 30 years?
20 years, I think.
No, yeah, 20 years. It's celebrating 20 years this year. Oh man. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, we love this movie. Do we have any problem recommending this to people?
Really?
I hope it gets a physical release so that I can just start buying it for people.
Yeah, I would love to have this.
Because it would be great to be able to have. Yeah, I have no problem recommending this. I wish it gotten a little bit more of I guess it got a small theatrical run, but I wish it could have gotten a bigger one so that other people could truly appreciate it. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for us. So Alex, to wrap things up, if people want to be able to reach out to you and talk about how you're way too enthusiastic about Falling Blocks, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm on YouTube, and Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel.
And then also, if you're listening to this podcast and you're brand spanking new to my YouTube channel, welcome. You're obviously new here. If you liked what we had to say about Tetris, feel free to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing, and you can check out some of the other podcasts that we've done. We mentioned that Top Gun Maverick review that we did, where we had to eat a bunch of crow. You can check that out and see how much crow we had to eat. Or you can also check out, because the other big movie that we've since been able to get out there is our review of Alien 3. The movie that almost killed a franchise. You can see what our thoughts are on that. Or you can even go even further than that to the first two movies. So you guys can check out all of that content. And if you're listening via podcast platforms, you can do so at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Player.fm, as well as Spotify. And that'll go ahead and do it for us. So for myself and for Alex, we will see you guys next time, which is going to be another controversial one, Alex, because we're going to go into our thoughts on Godzilla -1. Yeah.
Is it really going to be controversial?
Well, it's going to be controversial on my end, because apparently I was supposed to see the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel before this. But I wanted to see this movie first. So we will we'll see you guys then for Godzilla -1, and we'll see what happens there and see what happens that's controversial. You'll have to wait until then. Until then, bye everybody!